Your friend walks in, they take off their shoes at the door, sit down on the sofa, and before you have even finished offering coffee, your dog is there, at their feet, tongue out. Licking slowly and deliberately, you laugh. You wave it off. You say the thing every dog owner says. Oh, he likes you. But behavioral neuroscience has spent the last 2 decades studying that exact moment, and what they found has almost nothing to do with liking. Licking is one of the most universal dog behaviors on Earth. Every breed does it. Every age does it. And yet it is also one of the most profoundly misunderstood. Most people assume licking equals affection, a canine kiss, a sign of approval. But the tongue your dog presses against a guest's ankle serves at least 5 distinct neural functions. Affection may be one of them, but it is only one. And in many cases, it is not even the primary one. The real question is not whether your dog licks your guest. The real question is what that tongue is actually doing. Before you can understand why your dog licks a guest, you need to understand what the tongue is capable of reading. Your skin is not a blank surface. It is a broadcasting station. Every minute, your body secretes hundreds of chemical molecules through 2 types of sweat glands. Eccrine glands, concentrated on the palms and the soles of the feet, release water, salt, and metabolic byproducts. Apocrine glands, clustered in areas like the armpits and groin, release hormones and pheromone-like compounds. Together, they create a chemical profile that is as unique as a fingerprint. Every person who sits on your sofa carries a different one. Research published by Cobb and colleagues in 2016 examined the composition of eccrine sweat in detail. What they found was remarkable. Human sweat does not just cool you down, it contains direct biomarkers of your physiological state. Cortisol levels rise when you are stressed. Adrenaline surges when you are nervous or excited. Lactic acid concentrations shift with physical exertion. And here is the detail that explains why your dog targets the feet and not the hands. The soles of your feet contain approximately 250,000 sweat glands per foot. That is the highest concentration of any surface on your entire body. Your feet are a chemical billboard, and your dog can read every word. But here's where it gets deeper. When your dog licks, it is not just tasting. Alexandra Horowitz, in her 2009 book Inside of a Dog, describes how the canine tongue serves a dual sensory function that most people never consider. The tongue tastes, yes, but it also acts as a delivery mechanism. Each lick picks up chemical molecules from the skin's surface and carries them upward to a structure called Jacobson's organ, also known as the vomeronasal organ. This organ sits in a small pouch behind the upper front teeth. It does not process taste. It does not process standard smell. It analyzes pheromones, hormonal signals, and social chemical markers that the regular nose cannot decode at all. Your dog's tongue is not a greeting. It is a laboratory instrument. Think of it this way. When your dog licks a guest's feet, it is running a full biometric scan. 3 sensory systems fire simultaneously. Standard olfaction processes volatile compounds floating off the skin. Gustation, the taste system, analyzes dissolved molecules picked up by the tongue. And the vomeronasal organ decodes social chemical signals invisible to both. In seconds, your dog is processing questions that would take you hours of conversation to answer. Who is this person? What is their emotional state right now? Where have they been today? What other animals have they touched? Whether they are calm, nervous, sick, or afraid. All of that information, extracted from a few seconds of licking a bare foot. But chemical scanning is only the first layer. The second layer reaches back thousands of years. John Bradshaw, one of the world's leading anthrozoologists, traced the evolutionary origin of canine licking in his 2011 book, Dog Sense. It begins with wolf puppies. When a pup is hungry, it licks its mother's muzzle. This is not affection. It is a food solicitation signal. The licking stimulates the mother to regurgitate partially digested food. Over thousands of generations, that behavior generalized. Licking became a permission signal, a submission signal, a way of saying, I am smaller than you. I am not a threat. I need something from you. That ancient circuit still fires in your domestic dog's brain every single time it meets someone new. In wolf packs, this behavior crystallized into a specific social function. Lower-ranking individuals lick the muzzles of higher-ranking ones when they return from a hunt. The message is not affection. The message is, I acknowledge your status. I am not challenging you. I come in peace. It is not affection. It is diplomacy. Your domestic dog carries this same neural wiring, refined across 15,000 years of coevolution with humans. When it approaches a guest who just entered your territory and begins licking their feet, it may not be saying I love you. It may be running the oldest peace protocol in the canine behavioral repertoire. Or is it fear? The answer, according to research by Schilder and van der Borg published in 2004, is that it depends entirely on context. They classified canine licking into 2 distinct behavioral categories. The first is affiliative licking. This is proactive, relaxed, accompanied by loose body posture and a broad tail wag. The dog approaches willingly and licks with soft, unhurried movements. The second category is displacement licking. This is repetitive, tense, often rapid, and accompanied by other stress signals: lip licking, yawning, gaze aversion. same tongue, same motion, same behavior you observe from across the room, but two completely different neurological events happening inside the brain. Displacement behavior works like a pressure valve in the nervous system. Barbara Handelman describes the mechanism in detail in her 2008 book, Canine Behavior. When a dog faces internal conflict, when it wants to approach a person but simultaneously feels uncertain or afraid, the brain does something remarkable. It activates a behavior that is completely unrelated to either impulse. Licking, yawning, nose licking, scratching, sniffing the ground. These are not random. They are the brain's strategy for reducing arousal when two competing drives collide and neither one wins. The pressure has to go somewhere, and the tongue is often where it goes. But here's the part that changes everything about how you watch your dog. You cannot read a single behavior in isolation. You must read signal clusters. Karen Shepard established this principle in the BS-AVA Manual of Canine and Feline Behavioral Medicine, published in 2002. Every experienced behaviorist follows it. Licking combined with pinned ears, a lowered body, and gaze avoidance. That cluster signals anxiety. Licking combined with a broad, relaxed tail wag, a soft body, and soft eyes. That cluster signals friendly engagement. The lick is identical in both cases, but the cluster around it tells you everything. A single behavior is never, on its own, sufficient to draw a conclusion. And here is where the science becomes extraordinary. Biagio Daniello and colleagues at the University of Naples, in a 2018 study, collected sweat samples from human volunteers experiencing two distinct emotional states, fear and happiness. They then exposed dogs to those samples in a controlled environment. The results were remarkable. Dogs exposed to fear sweat showed significantly elevated heart rates. They increased proximity-seeking behavior toward their owners. Their bodies tensed. Dogs exposed to happy sweat remained calm, relaxed, and exploratory. Your dog is not just smelling your guest's skin. It is reading their emotional autobiography, written in molecules you cannot see, through a sensory system you do not possess. Now think about what this means in practice. When someone arrives at your home, they are almost never emotionally neutral. They are a little nervous, a little excited. Maybe they have not visited before. Maybe they are meeting your dog for the first time. Their cortisol rises slightly. Adrenaline increases. These changes register in their sweat within seconds. And your dog, the moment it makes contact with their skin, detects those chemical signals through the feet. The licking that follows is not friendliness. It is not rudeness. It is simultaneously investigation and reaction. Your dog is responding to stress signals that your guest does not even know they are broadcasting. But there is still another layer, and this one changes the entire picture. In 2015, Nagasawa and colleagues at Azabu University published a finding that made headlines around the world. When dogs and their owners gaze into each other's eyes, oxytocin levels rise. Not just in the human, in the dog too. Both parties experience a surge of the same bonding hormone that flows between human mothers and their newborn infants. A feedback loop, a neurochemical handshake that says, "You are safe with me." Research suggests that licking may be your dog's attempt to initiate that loop with someone new, to start the chemistry of connection before the bond even exists. But here is the complication. The oxytocin bonding loop works most reliably with familiar people the dog already trusts. With a stranger sitting on your sofa, the dog's brain faces a genuine fork in the road. Two neural systems compete for dominance. The bonding system says, initiate connection. The threat assessment system says, evaluate first. Is this person safe enough to bond with? Or is this a source of uncertainty that requires more data before any trust is extended? Licking a guest's feet sits right at that boundary, between two systems pulling in opposite directions, and the dog's brain is trying to resolve the conflict in real time. Voss and colleagues mapped out exactly how dogs assess unfamiliar people in a 2005 study using the threatening stranger test. The sequence is remarkably consistent across breeds and temperaments. First, the dog looks. Then it sniffs from a distance. Then it approaches cautiously. Then it makes physical contact. And licking, when it occurs, is the final step in the assessment chain, the last piece of data collection before the brain renders its verdict. Safe, uncertain, or avoid. Your dog is not greeting your guest. Your dog is completing an evaluation. And which part of the brain is making that evaluation? The amygdala, the brain's threat processing center. Siniscalchi and colleagues, in a 2018 study on canine neural lateralization, found something that should change how you interpret every friendly-looking dog interaction with a stranger. When dogs process emotional signals from unfamiliar people, they rely primarily on the right hemisphere. That is the hemisphere associated with withdrawal, vigilance, and cautious assessment. Even when your dog looks friendly, even when the tail is moving, even when the tongue is out and the body looks relaxed, the brain is running a threat assessment. Alert mode, silent, continuous, and active. Some dogs are naturally relaxed around strangers, others carry persistent vigilance, and the high-anxiety dogs lick significantly more when meeting new people. Not because they are friendlier, not because they like the guest more, because they need more tension release. The licking is not warmth, it is a pressure valve. And some dogs simply need to open that valve more than others. Palestrini and colleagues confirmed something in 2010 that makes this picture even more complex. High arousal, regardless of whether it comes from excitement or anxiety, increases oral behaviors, including licking. A dog that is thrilled to see a new person licks. A dog that is nervous about a new person also licks. Same tongue, same motion, same behavior you observe from the other side of the room, but two completely different internal states, and you cannot tell the difference by watching the tongue alone. But here is a question almost nobody thinks to ask. Why does your dog lick some guests and completely ignore others? 5 people sit on your sofa. Your dog walks past 4 of them without a glance, but the 5th person gets the full treatment, feet licked, ankles inspected. Skandura and colleagues in a 2018 study showed that dogs discriminate between people through composite signals: body odor, body language, vocal tone, cortisol level. People who are easy to read, whose signals are clear and internally consistent, put dogs at ease. People who are noisy, whose verbal signals say one thing but whose body carries tension, get licked more, not because the dog likes them more, because the dog needs more data to resolve the contradiction. Kustens and Mayer, in a 2012 study, tested something that pushes the boundaries of what we think we know. They had a stranger sit in a room with a dog and pretend to cry. The dogs did not stay where they were. They did not look to their owner for guidance. They approached the stranger, and they licked. Not randomly, not because of chemical curiosity, directed specifically and selectively at the person producing distress signals. Research suggests this may be what scientists call a proto-empathic response. The tongue reaching out not for data, not for peace, but because something in the dog's neural architecture responds to another being in pain. So here's what is actually happening when your dog walks over and licks a guest's feet. It is not one behavior. It is not one motivation. It is an intersection of 5 neural systems firing simultaneously. Chemosensory analysis. The tongue gathering chemical intelligence. Evolutionary signaling. An ancient peace protocol inherited from wolves. Displacement. The brain releasing internal conflict through a physical act. Oxytocin activation, an attempt to initiate the chemistry of bonding, and something that looks, behaviorally, remarkably like empathy, a response to another being's emotional state. 5 systems, 1 tongue. And you thought it was just being friendly. Now, one thing worth paying attention to: if your dog's licking becomes compulsive, if it does not stop when the guest pulls their foot away, if it extends beyond skin to surfaces like the sofa cushion, the floor, or the rug, if it comes paired with rapid panting, trembling, or an inability to settle, that is a different pattern. It could be environmental stress, it could be chronic anxiety, it could be a compulsive behavior pattern triggered by social overstimulation. If you notice these signs persisting, your vet can help sort out what is happening. Your job is not to diagnose, your job is to notice. You do not need to stop your dog from licking guests, but you do need to read the context. Watch the ears. Are they soft and forward or pinned back tight? Watch the tail. Is it sweeping broadly or tucked low? Watch the posture. Is the body soft and loose or rigid and compressed? If the signals read relaxed, the licking is probably affiliative. Let it happen. If the signals read tense, gently guide your dog to a safe distance, a bed nearby, a mat they know. Give them the option to observe without the pressure of contact. And here is something most people miss entirely. How your guest reacts matters just as much as what your dog does. Jerking the foot away and yelping increases your dog's arousal. It confirms that this person is unpredictable, that the uncertainty was justified. But sitting still, speaking softly, letting the investigation happen, that reduces cortisol in both of them. The dog calms. The guest calms. The loop resolves itself. You can tell your guest something simple. Just let them be. They are getting to know you. That one sentence changes the entire interaction. So, next time a guest sits on your sofa, and your dog walks over, tongue out, heading straight for their bare feet, do not say he likes you. Watch the ears. Watch the tail. Watch the breathing. Watch the posture. That tongue is running an algorithm more complex than any facial recognition system ever built. 5 systems converging on a single question. 15,000 years of evolution compressed into a few seconds of contact. It is not licking out of love. It is not licking out of fear. It is licking because its brain is trying to answer a question you have never heard. A question that has been asked, silently, by every dog that has ever lived alongside a human being. Is this person safe? And am I safe with this person here?